Still broke, Ivy? Maybe Santa can bring you a job application. My sister sneered, her laugh sharp as broken glass. The table erupted, soft chuckles, clinking silverware, the kind of laughter that tastes like smoke when you're the one it's aimed at. The roast turkey steamed in the middle, the candles flickered, and yet all I could feel was the old weight pressing down. The unshakable truth that in this family, I was the punchline. Hi everyone, my name is Ivy Carter, and I've spent most of my life learning how to keep my face still while my chest burns. All autumn I'd been grinding myself into the floor, overnight shifts, skipped meals, rent that bled my paychecks dry. I collapsed once in the break room at work, waking up with a nurse's hand on my shoulder and the metallic taste of 4 saline in my mouth. But here, at our glittering Christmas table, they told jokes about me like I was some cautionary tale instead of their daughter. And then my dad looked at me, really looked, with the kind of soft, worried eyes that always made me feel both loved and pitied. His voice broke through the laughter. Ivy, he said gently, is your allowance enough? The laughter stopped. Forks froze midair. My sister shifted in her seat. Mom's wine glass paused just shy of her lips. Allowance? I felt the words scrape against my ribs. My throat closed, but I forced the question out, steady and cold. What allowance? My dad's face drained white, like someone had pulled the color straight out of him. He fumbled for his phone, hands shaking as he opened his banking app. I've been sending money every month, he stammered. 2,000. Since last year. To help you, to keep you safe while you finish school. Your mother said she set it up. The air thickened. The twinkle lights behind him blurred. Mom's smile cracked, slow and deliberate, like porcelain giving way. My sister's smug expression faltered just enough to let the truth leak through. And in that moment, as Dad's screen lit up blue with transaction after transaction marked for Ivy, something inside me shifted. The betrayal didn't shout. It whispered. Sometimes, the blade you feel in your back smells like your mother's perfume. Dad's hands trembled as he scrolled through the ledger on his phone. The numbers glared up like ghosts. $2,000. $2,000. $2,000. Every month. Each entry stamped with a memo line, for Ivy. For tuition. For rent. For her peace of mind. But none of it had reached me. My stomach turned. Every blister on my hands from double shifts, every ache in my knees from standing too long, every tear I cried alone in my freezing apartment, it all rose in me like smoke from a house fire. Mom broke the silence first. She placed her glass down with a delicate clink and folded her napkin, as if the whole thing were simply bad table manners. Daniel, she said to my dad, her voice syrupy and calm, this isn't the time for financial discussions. We don't need to ruin Christmas. Ruin Christmas. Dad's voice cracked. His thumb hovered over the latest transfer, his jaw working like he was chewing gravel. Elaine, I've been sending this money for 18 months. Where has it been going? A pause. A breath. And then my sister, smirking in the flicker of candlelight, tossed her hair back. To me. The word sliced the room in two. She leaned casually on the table, bracelets glinting. Mom said Ivy didn't want handouts. But I had opportunities. Paris isn't cheap. You always told us to invest in ourselves, Dad. That's what I did. I blinked at her. Paris. The photos I'd seen on her Instagram, shopping bags from luxury boutiques, champagne toasts on river cruises, silk dresses shimmering under foreign lights. All of it, bought with money that was supposed to keep me alive. Dad turned slowly to Mom. His voice dropped to a whisper, but it carried through the room like thunder. You told me you set up Ivy's direct deposit. You looked me in the eye. Mom didn't flinch. She smoothed her napkin, serene as ice. I did what was best. Ivy's strong. She's always survived. Your other daughter needed a leg up. My chest burned, but my voice came out cold. You didn't give her a leg up. You cut mine out from under me. And for the first time that night, Mom didn't have a ready smile to hide behind. The silence after my words felt heavier than any scream. Even the twinkle lights seemed to dim, like the house itself knew the truth had finally been spoken. Dad's hand shook as he set his phone down on the table. The screen still glowed, each line of numbers standing as silent witnesses. $36,000, he whispered, voice breaking. That's how much I've sent. That's how much you stole. Mom's lips tightened, a faint quiver betraying the ice in her composure. Stole? Don't dramatize, Daniel. I redirected. It stayed in the family. Ivy wasn't going to starve. Redirected. Dad's voice cracked into something raw, a man realizing the partner he trusted had become the architect of betrayal. I watched her come home pale, shaking from exhaustion. I thought she was too proud to use the money. And all this time, his gaze flicked to my sister. You were parading through Paris while your sister was collapsing at work. My sister shifted, suddenly defensive. I didn't know it was meant for her. Mom just said you wanted to invest in me. Invest. I spat, my hands curling into fists in my lap. Do you know what I could have done with just one of those checks? Paid rent on time. Bought groceries without counting coins. Slept without wondering if the lights would be cut off. But you used my lifeline as your spending money. Her smirk wavered, but she crossed her arms. Don't blame me for being the favorite. The words hit like a slap, not because they were untrue, but because they were so nakedly admitted. Dad pressed both hands to his face. His shoulders hunched, the man who always held our world together suddenly small, broken. Elaine, how could you do this? Mom finally met his eyes, and her voice dropped to a chilling calm. Because I know who can handle struggle. Ivy was built for it. She survives. Our other daughter? She needed help to shine. I gave it to her. I leaned forward, my voice steady as steel. You didn't build her shine, you burned me to keep her warm. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just theft. It was a choice. Dad lowered his hands, and for the first time in my life, I saw him look at Mom not with love, not with patience, but with something close to fear. His voice was hoarse. Elaine, you've been forging decisions behind my back for nearly 2 years. You let our daughter bleed herself dry while you funneled her support into handbags and plane tickets. Mom's jaw stayed tight, her chin lifted as if dignity could erase fraud. You're overreacting. It was money you could afford. Nothing catastrophic happened. Nothing catastrophic. I snapped, pulling a folded paper from my purse. My ER bill, still unpaid, still gnawing at me every time I opened the mailbox. I dropped it on the table between the cooling turkey and the untouched cranberry sauce. The paper's edges curled in the candle heat. This is what nothing catastrophic looks like. I collapsed at work because I couldn't afford food and rent at the same time. Dad's face drained again. He picked up the bill with shaking hands, eyes scanning the total. The silence wrapped around us like barbed wire. You lied to me, he said to Mom, his voice finally steady, deadly calm. You lied, and you forged consent. He turned to me, grief flooding his eyes. Ivy, I thought I was protecting you. You tried, I whispered. But Mom made sure your love never reached me. My sister laughed nervously, desperate to shatter the tension. Dad, come on. It's just money. People waste money on worse things. I put it to good use. I learned culture, made connections. Connections. I cut her off. You bought shoes that cost more than my rent. You drank champagne with strangers while I fainted into a laundry cart. Don't dress it up as culture, it was indulgence. And you knew it. She faltered, color rising to her cheeks. Dad leaned back, the leather of his chair creaking under the weight of betrayal. This ends tonight, he said, voice like a verdict. Tomorrow morning, we're meeting with the bank. Every cent will be accounted for. And if you resist, Elaine, I'll call it what it is. Mom's smile returned, thin and venomous. And what's that, Daniel? His eyes didn't blink. Fraud. The word lingered in the air, heavy, final, like the toll of a bell. The bank lobby smelled faintly of pine cleaner and burnt coffee, its garlands drooping like tired smiles. We sat in a stiff row, Dad, me, Mom, and my sister, while the branch manager clicked through records on his monitor. Behind him, a small Christmas tree blinked cheerfully, oblivious to the storm unraveling beneath its light. The printer hummed, spitting out page after page. Transaction histories. Audit trails. The paper stacked like evidence in a trial. The manager adjusted his glasses. Mr. Carter, every deposit you made, $2,000 a month, was redirected into a subaccount. The owner permissions show both your and Mrs. Carter's names. But the withdrawals, he tapped the page with a pen, all went to your younger daughter's card. My sister shifted, rolling her eyes. Can we not make this into a crime drama? It's just family money. The manager's gaze sharpened. Funds designated for one dependent, misappropriated under false authorization. Yes, it is a crime. At best, it's misrepresentation. At worst, his pause carried weight. It's fraud. Dad sat forward, his voice low but resolute. How do we fix this? The manager slid a form across the desk. Options: repayment in full, repayment on a structured plan with interest, or liquidation of equivalent assets. Mom's face barely twitched. You expect us to humiliate ourselves over a technicality? I leaned in, my voice steady, cutting through her veneer. Humiliation is working until I collapse while my sister posts champagne selfies. This isn't technical, it's theft with my name forged on the paperwork. My sister's cheeks flamed. I didn't sign anything. No, I said, meeting Mom's gaze. She did. The manager circled a signature line on the document. Authorization for the subaccount. Signed Ivy Carter. But this loop in the R, he pointed, matches Mrs. Carter's signature on file. Not Ivy's. Dad's hands clenched into fists on the armrests. Elaine. His voice cracked like ice breaking on a river. You stole from your own child and forged her name. For the first time, Mom's mask slipped, just slightly, a flicker of panic beneath the calm. And in that flicker, I saw it, the first crack in her empire of lies. We returned home from the bank with papers stacked like verdicts. The agreement was clear. Mom's discretionary portfolio would be liquidated to cover the full $36,000 plus interest, and a trust would be set up in my name, independent of her control. It was more justice than I'd ever expected, yet somehow, it still wasn't enough. The house felt different now. The twinkle lights still blinked dutifully on the tree, but they cast long, uneasy shadows against the walls. Dad moved through the kitchen with the weight of a man realizing the woman beside him for decades had been a stranger in disguise. Mom set 2 designer boxes on the counter with a brittle smile. If this makes everyone feel better, I'll sell a few luxuries. Daniel, you can have the master bedroom to yourself if sleeping apart helps you make your point. Dad's reply was calm, but sharp. I'm sleeping just fine. Integrity is a good pillow. My sister hovered in the doorway, scrolling her phone slower than usual. You're not really going to sell my bags, are you? She muttered, her voice small for the first time. Yes, Dad said flatly, not even looking at her. Every one of them. Actions have consequences. I sipped tea at the table, watching them. A strange, steady calm filled me. For once, I wasn't the one shrinking, apologizing, or carrying the burden alone. The truth had dragged them, kicking and screaming, into the light. Mom's mask cracked further. Daniel, you can't dismantle everything I've built. Do you have any idea what people will say? What our friends will think? Dad turned slowly, his eyes tired but unflinching. I don't care what they think. I care that I looked my daughter in the eye while she was starving and believed the lie that she was proud, when really, her own mother was bleeding her dry. Mom's face paled, but I noticed something else, a flicker of calculation returning, like gears already turning. She wasn't finished. She would fight for her control, her image, her golden child. And that was fine. Because for the first time in my life, neither was I. By New Year's Eve, the house had gone quiet. No more Paris packages at the door. No more clinking wine glasses at midnight. Just the faint hum of the heater and the brittle silence of a family cracking down the middle. I thought maybe that silence would last, until I found the envelope. It was slipped under my bedroom door, Mom's handwriting curling across the front, for Ivy. My chest tightened as I opened it, half expecting some apology, a note of contrition. Instead, a single sheet of paper slid out, one I recognized immediately. My authorization form for the subaccount. Only this time, the signature had been redone. Cleaner. Almost flawless. She was rewriting history. Footsteps creaked in the hall. Mom appeared in the doorway, her perfume trailing in like a ghost. That was never supposed to get messy, she said softly, as if we were allies in some secret war. Your father doesn't understand balance. I do. If you expose this, if you push further, you'll destroy what's left of him. Are you willing to do that? Her eyes searched mine, sharp and desperate. For a moment, I saw not the poised matriarch, but a woman clinging to power like it was oxygen. You already destroyed him, I said. My voice was steady, but inside, something broke for good. And you don't get to put that on me. She tilted her head, smile fragile but defiant. You think the world will thank you for humiliating your own mother? No. They'll call you ungrateful. Bitter. They'll side with me. They always do. I slipped the forged paper back into the envelope and held it like evidence. Not this time. For the first time, her mask cracked fully, eyes wide, lips trembling, fear bleeding through. She knew I had her cornered. Because tomorrow, the accountant, the bank manager, and Dad would all see this clean forgery. And I would make sure they knew exactly what she tried to bury. Her empire wasn't just cracked anymore. It was collapsing. And I was done letting her rebuild it with my blood. The meeting was set for the first Monday of the new year. Dad, weary but resolute, sat on one side of the polished conference table. The bank manager and CPA took their places, stacks of papers neatly aligned like soldiers waiting for orders. And I walked in last, envelope in hand, the proof of Mom's final betrayal. She arrived dressed immaculately, as if silken pearls could erase ink and lies. My sister trailed behind her, sullen and hollow-eyed, stripped of the glitter that Paris once gave her. The CPA cleared her throat. Before we finalize the trust agreement, Ivy has something to present. I opened the envelope and laid the forged authorization form on the table. Then, beside it, the cleaned-up version Mom had slipped under my door. Side by side, the similarities screamed louder than any accusation. Dad leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Elaine. Her face drained of color. That's not. The bank manager slid the pages under a magnifier, comparing strokes, loops, pressure. He didn't even look up. Both are forged. Same hand. Not Ivy's. Silence fell, suffocating and absolute. For years, my mother controlled the narrative, who I was, who my sister was, who wore the crown and who carried the weight. But in this moment, the mask shattered. There were no excuses left. No sweet words to coat the venom. Dad's voice was quiet, but final. Elaine, we're done. You'll sign the liquidation today. You'll resign from every account. And you'll answer to the law if you resist. She opened her mouth, then closed it. The room had already decided. I felt something I hadn't in years, air in my lungs that didn't burn. I wasn't the struggling daughter, the forgotten one, the shadow cast to make another shine. I was the truth teller. The survivor. The one who refused to bend. When the papers were signed, Dad slid the folder toward me. His hand shook, but his eyes met mine with pride. It's yours now, Ivy. As it always should have been. Mom's empire had collapsed, not with fire or fury, but with ink, silence, and undeniable proof. And as we walked out of that room, leaving her behind, I knew my story was no longer theirs to script.